Hey there, welcome to episode 147 of Fresh Air at 5. This is a 2-week episode because halfway through the first week, I got sick and was in bed and could not finish more than the first 2 segments of this podcast. But I'm better now, back on my feet. And this week was only 3 days of walking due to tiredness and getting caught up on those 3 days of work. So that I had to give some of that up. Yesterday was newsletter build day at school. It went well. And today is here. So, releasing this today. And thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Tell your friends about it. And let's get some more subscribers for my podcast, if you don't mind. Because, I think that what I bring as far as a smorgasbord of listening opportunities for you to catch up on other people's podcasts and hear what they have to say with my reflections in the mornings is an important thing. Amplifying each other, and this is one of the reasons why I do this, so I can also connect with those podcasters. All right, without further ado, episode 147, Fresh Air at 5.
I'm Kristi Hemmingway, host of EdCuration, a part of the EdCuration podcast network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Brian Carpenter. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to exercise by walking about my neighborhood, to take in podcast content, then reflect in an unedited video, which I finally post to my Twitter channel. This podcast will be a regular collection of the audio from these selfie videos. You can follow me on Twitter at Fresh Air at 5 or check out my website, briancarpenter.com, for other content I have created and collected. Hey, PLN, November 2023. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well as you're starting to listen to the first segment of episode 147 of Fresh Air at 5. I'm really excited that I've made it this far. The consistency needed to get here has kept me going. And the need to get out of bed so I can go for my walk to get some fresh air right now, today, is what this past 147 episodes has been about. People are like, how can you do it? I'm like, well, one step at a time, and making sure that I do it, as opposed to say I'm going to do it and then don't do it. So, yes, okay, I could go on about that for a while, and maybe I will soon. Yes, as I was listening this morning, I listened to episode 80 of Evolving with Gratitude podcast with Lainey Rowell. And Lainey, I want to say congratulations on getting to 80. That's fantastic. It's been fantastic to hear your guest talk about gratitude and all other things. And I was glad to be a guest with you. And this morning on episode 80, I heard Dr. Todd Whitaker speak with you about leading educational excellence and how to go about doing that. And it's about hiring excellent teachers, and excellent teachers will take care of kids in excellent ways. And then there's the 4 quadrants of that ineffective leader won't hire an excellent teacher because they feel intimidated by such a person. And how can we use education to change people's minds? How can we use education to affect relationships? And, Dr. Todd Whitaker, you talked about learning relationships compared to just relationships, because a learning relationship is going to push things along, not mandated, but because it's effective in how the 2 people interact with one another to grow things. All right. That's all I got for this morning. Thanks, Lainey. Thanks, Dr. Todd. Check out his website. Do listen to this episode because it's free and awesome. Okay, bye. Hey, PLN, November 21, 2023. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. It is a crisp 5 degrees humid morning here. We have thin overcast, and I can see the stars briefly through the clouds, so that's nice. And it's good to get out and walk, get some exercise, get my heart rate going, and learning. That's what I'm doing right now. So as I'm walking, I listened to episode 7 of Embrace the Messy podcast with Shannon Schenkel. She has on guest and a esteemed speaker, Dr. Shelley Moore from BC here. And Shelley, it was fantastic to hear you talk about inclusion, talk about the continuum of the proficiency scale, and how we got to get away from just the pigeonholing and the boxing and things like that. This is part of my journey lately, as we are now under the new reporting order, and I am learning about how to do standards-based grading and looking at the standards and, assessing students on their ability to meet those standards. And it's not necessarily about the content, but it's about the competency of certain things that they can do. So that's me mumbling about that. It was great to hear this conversation about inclusion. And if you have some thoughts about inclusion and about keeping that kid in your classroom and kicking that kid out of your classroom, what are the benefits of keeping him in? What are the benefits of keeping him out? And I'm telling you, there's probably not very many benefits for keeping him out, except reducing the distraction to the other students in your classroom. But yes. All right, that's all I got. We'll talk to you soon. Have a fabulous day. Okay, bye. Hey PLN, it is Monday, November 27, 2023. Out for fresh air at 5 on my lunch break today, and needed to get out and get some fresh air. Working from home today and doing a lot of marking. So my head's been in the computer, and this is a good way to get out of the computer and go do something. So it's not dark, it's nice out. And you know what? It seems like it's longer when I walk in the dark in the light than it is in the dark. Probably because I see a whole lot more and it takes more time to look around. But anyhow, that's the thing. All right, today, as I'm walking, I listened to episode 11 of The Generative Age with Alana Winnick. And this is a fantastic episode as she talks with Tom Rogerson, who is the headmaster at Cottesmore School in England. And he talks about humanizing AI and preserving traditions. And so this is an interesting idea, how we, in our age of digitalness and how our age of touching technology like our phones and all the information that we get all the time, and how AI can do so many things for us, how he talks about the importance today, more than ever, for artists and musicians and dancers and the creatives to be ever more present in our world today. So as we are, going through our days, those creative things that keep us being human, making new things, and not having the computers do it for us. We can use the computers as tools, but not to have them generate all the art and all that kind of stuff. We keep our fingers in the paint and in the pencils and on the dance floor so that we can enjoy those things. It's why I enjoy fly fishing so very much. It's an analog activity that requires creativity and problem solving. I go fishing and catch fish. All right, this is a fantastic episode. Thank you, Alana, for sharing part 1 with us. I'm looking forward to part 2 coming soon with Tom Rogerson of Cottesmore School. All right, talk to you soon. Talk to you soon. Bye. One more thing for November 27, 2023. Listen to episode 237 of the House of EdTech. And at the top of it, thanks, Chris, for putting the bumper for Fresh Air at 5 out at the front. It's always cool to hear my own voice when I'm listening to another person's podcast. And that's what we do on the Educational Podcast Network, is we shout out the others in the network so that we get more listenership. So go check out the Educational Podcast Network and take a listen to some other of these podcasts. It's fantastic. All right, Chris, some great news I heard in this episode as you brought up the EdTech Smackdown 2023. Good news. I actually paused my walk, well, not my walk, of listening to your podcast, and I recorded my segment that I'm going to email to you this afternoon. So it's coming your way, and you'll, if you haven't listened to the EdTech Smackdown, it's super fun. All of us that contribute have ideas, and you can take those ideas back to your classroom the next day. All right. In episode 237, Chris talks about technology in the classroom, friend or foe. And Chris, I agree that it is friend. And we can't make it foe, because if we make it foe, it's never going to go away. It's always going to be a problem. You talk about classroom management strategies. You talk about, teaching students what's appropriate in digital citizenship. So very important. I was having a conversation with our digital learning vice principal, and how she and I were talking about classroom management and technology and a tool. And I like what you talked about here, and I'm going to share this episode with her. So yes, Tracy, Chris, shouting you out here, and thanks for taking a listen in advance. All right, as we're going along here, it's a beautiful day, and I'm just nearing home, so I'm going to try to squeak in another short podcast for this segment, next segment of episode 147, Fresh Air at 5. I was sick last week for a few days. That's why it didn't come out last week. Talk to you soon. Okay, bye. All right, the last thing for November 27, 2023, I listened to Teach Happier with Suzanne Daly, season 4, episode 13, as she brings us an episode called Wintering. And Suzanne, I read that and I went, whew, cold, and winter, and how we don't like winter. But as you talk about in this episode, it's so necessary for us to take time to slow down in the coldness of it all, and stay inside and curl up with a book and take time to reflect and renew and slow down, and how nature doesn't fight necessarily against winter, but it prepares for it so that it can have a time of sleep and have a time of rest. And that dormant field in the winter that looks like it's just maybe dead isn't dead. It's preparing for the spring. Lots of things are happening inside plants and animals as they go through the winter. And it's important that we as educators, take time for ourselves in this winter season. Yeah, it's cold and gloomy and dark, but you know what I've noticed? I really didn't like that when the time changed and it was dark at 4:30 in the afternoon. This was a couple weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And all of a sudden, my evenings now become so much longer. It's just a shift in our mindset about what do you do during the daytime hours and what do you do during the not daytime hours. I found that, I focus really hard on a Saturday to get stuff done before it's dark. And then I go inside and I do the stuff that needs to get done, that is inside, like paperwork and other things like that I don't typically enjoy doing in the summertime because, well, it's so bright and nice outside. So yeah, we need to take time for ourselves to do the things in the different seasons of the year. And yes. All right, take a listen to this. Fantastic. Here are you, Suzanne. I appreciate it, and have a fabulous day. Bye. Hey, PLN, November 29, 2023. I'm out for fresh air at 5 this morning. It's minus 2 degrees Celsius, clear. You can see the stars in the sky, and it is a nice morning. Crisp. The ground is not slippery, so I'm thankful for that. And out walking, getting some fresh air, and clearing my head and learning. My goodness, this morning's learning came from episode, I think it was 32 of the Optimalist podcast. I might be wrong, Sarah. I apologize for that. But it's the episode where Sarah talks with Dr. Michelle Ament, who is the Chief Academic Officer at ProSolve, a professional learning company, I believe. I don't exactly know. But they talk on the Optimalist podcast about adaptability. They talked about failure and how failure and risk-taking and trying something new and failing is a necessary for adaptability and moving forward. If we're always trying things and they work, we're not going to learn a whole lot. It's only in the failures of the things that we are doing that we're going to advance and make improvement. I really like how you brought forward the difference between content knowledge and 21st century skills. And we have in our face today, we've got artificial intelligence, we have chatbots, we have digital assistants that can provide us content at a whim. And what we need to do is we need to have that human intelligence attached to that so that we can make decisive decisions about this information. If we just leave it up to the bots, then we're just giving up control, and we should not ever do that. We got to be involved in that feedback loop and that learning. I really appreciated hearing about the 4 C's and the 4 F's, and the 4 F's are a reflection set of questions that are necessary. I'm going to get back to that in a second. Just hang on one moment. One more thing for November 29, 2023. Continuing my thoughts on episode 32. It is episode 32 of the Optimalist podcast, as Sarah Candela talks with Michelle Ament about perfectionism, from perfectionism to reflectionism, learning in the age of AI and how we can do that. All right, we're both talking about 21st century skills, the 4 C's of creativity, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking. And Tim Cavey has put another one in there for me called curiosity. So there's like 5 C's. 5 C's in there. And you said that partnered with that, we should have a reflective practice in our space on a regular basis. And I like the framework that you've put around this, because when we say, let's go reflect, what do we reflect about? And the reflection that could take a form would be the 4 F's, being the facts, the feelings, the findings, and the future, what's coming up as a result of what we just did moving forward. And the 5th F that was stuck in there as you're talking was the feedback, and how as instructors and mentors, we can provide feedback to our learners as they go through this reflection process. Challenge them to think about what facts did they miss? What other feelings could you be having? And things like that as we are reflecting. Wow, I really like this episode. I think you'll like it too if you're listening to me talk. So go listen to episode 32 of the Optimalist podcast. Subscribe to it. Let's give Sarah some props, as she's working really hard to bring us awesome content like this. All right, Sarah, have a fabulous day. Michelle, thank you so much for your insight and your thoughts and wisdom. And I'm going to actually get going on putting some 4 F's into my classroom. Okay, bye. Hey, PLN, it is Friday, December 1, 2023. Welcome to December. November's over, October's over, September's over, and here we are, like 3 months into our school year, maybe 4 if you start in August, like some of our friends to the south. But we are at the beginning of December, and today for me is, the beginning of December, Christmas season, things like that. But also today I'm getting my front tooth removed. It's actually been removed, and there's a implant in there that is going to be removed because it has failed. It was put in about 11 years ago, and I've had 11 good years. And now it's time to remove it and do other things with my mouth. So I've got oral surgery later this afternoon. I have to hustle home now, eat a big breakfast, because I'm supposed to fast for 8 hours before the surgery. So I got to get going here. All right. All that to say, I'm glad and grateful and thankful for my oral surgeon, my dentist, our healthcare system here in Canada, as I am, doing this today. And it's plus 2 degrees Celsius. It's not pouring rain. It's damp, but that's all right. This morning, as I listened to episode 82 of Evolving with Gratitude, as Lainey Rowell talks with Starr Sackstein about promoting achievement and agency in our students as they are with us, and we are, should tap into what they know as far as what they can do in their classrooms. It's important that we enjoy their resource, the fact that they are smart about what they know, and we should take into consideration their thoughts as we do assessment. All right, right behind me, snuck up behind me is Bruce. There's Bruce and Sophie right there, and they are out walking as well this morning. So take a listen to Evolving with Gratitude, episode 82 with Lainey Rowell, and I will talk to you all on the other side of the weekend. Have a fabulous day. Appreciate you all. Okay, bye. As my one word for 2021 is appreciate, I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific podcast episodes in the show notes for your learning convenience. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoyed this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can also be found on Voice Ed Radio. Your voice is right here, and on the EdCuration Podcast Network, podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day and get some fresh air before the day is out, and take care of yourself because you're worth it.